Have your fantasy teams been struggling this year? Or perhaps you've been doing pretty well but want to put yourself over the top? Then make sure to visit our friends over at Finish First Fantasy Advisors. They are the premier one-on-one consulting firm that specializes in providing you with expert support to help guide you to the championship. You will be matched with one of their expert advisors to provide you with the season-long insight for your redraft, dynasty, or DFS formats. Their advisors will contact you weekly to answer all of your questions and provide you the needed information to get to the next level. Set up a free 15-minute consultation by emailing them at info@finishfirstfantasy.com or by visiting them at www.finishfirstfantasy.com. That's www.finishfirstfantasy.com. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the SkullKing Sports Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Ryan Scullard, here again with Mr. CJ Krause. How's it going, CJ?
It's going well, man. It's been a fun weekend watching some games out here, and a great, fantasy-wise, night game we had. So.
Yeah, well, and then let's go ahead and talk about we were talking about how our week went for fantasy, and I told you I think I went 0-5. In my fantasy leagues this week, because guys like Austin Eckler and Justin Herbert and let's see who else didn't show up even on the football field this week. I had a few others that it was just altogether bad.
Today didn't show up. That hurt a lot of people.
Yeah,
Antonio Gibson getting hurt, Miles Sanders. There's a lot of players I'm sure people were counting on to do well that just crap the bed on them, which is unfortunate, but that's the way it just hits harder this week when that happens, because we're right in that push. If it happens week 5, you don't care as much, but week 13 hurts.
Week 13 hurts because for teams that have a 3-week playoff, we're going to the playoffs now. That's just so weird to think that we're already in the playoffs.
And guys like Derrick Henry this week, kind of only getting 5 points and half PPR. Guys you want to have for the playoffs. A lot of those teams got busted out with that.
Yep.
So a lot of other fantasy managers who were staring down, oh crap, we're doing the Derrick Henry matchups. Pretty happy, but the guy that had Derrick Henry probably upset.
Yeah.
So.
At least it wasn't what was it last week with the Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill.
Oh my! But that's what Darren Waller was this week.
Darren Waller was that. Yep. So, although I got to admit, I did really well with the Ryan. Well, I did pretty well with the Ryan Tannehill and Corey Davis stack in a couple of my DFS lineups.
Yeah, I didn't commit to that stack, but I had the car almost everywhere because how cheap he was for that one. He was my QB5 on this past week, but I was probably the one person that believed in the bounce back, but that much at least.
Yeah,
so.
I had Tannehill and Corey Davis in one. That my lineup had been doing horrible. It got me up to, I think I was at 1.6. I ended up finishing 15. Out of 100 guys, it's a small league. I think I got up to 6th because of that lineup. And then Austin Eckler did nothing, and the Seahawks defense decided to give up two touchdowns to the Giants.
Are you doing okay after that game? I'm asking as a friend.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm really not doing okay after that game.
I didn't want to bring it up, but since you did, I thought it was okay. That would be a safe space for us. But
that was horrible. And you know what?
McCoy.
It was. Most of that was on the receivers. I want to say one of the interceptions was off of Chris Carson's helmet and into the defender's hands. Through Chris Carson's hands, off his helmet, and into the defender's hands. You had DK Metcalf drop 2 passes in his hands of 25 yards or more. One of them would have put him at the 3-yard line. And I want to say that even, Chris Carson had 2 other drops, and then even Tyler Lockett had it. It was horrible. That was just, so I'm not okay. I'm not okay.
Do you feel better now that you got that out of you?
Oh, heck no. See, I'm one of those people that I dwell on things. I don't let things go, and so
So you dropped DK Metcalf is what you said in all of
no,
your leagues.
no, because I think I only have one league that I have him.
Yeah.
And what sucks is that league is that team is an absolute juggernaut if everyone could have stayed healthy. I mean, it's Ryan Tannehill, DK Metcalf, DeAndre Hopkins, Austin Eckler, Chris Carson, Christian McCaffrey. I mean,
Do you have me drop DK? He had at least 2, right?
he had at least 2.
Yeah, he had 5 on the season going into this week. He has 2 more. This is why, like, not to go on tangent with DK Metcalf, but this is the way that I love him, but I can't stand him sometimes.
Yep.
He just has those like drops that just happen. That's why like people have the conversation like he's the best wide receiver for dynasty and things like that. I can't put him there until he fixes that.
Yep.
I can't put him over Adams or Tyreek, which he has every potential in the world.
Yep.
So I want to look up that really fast because going into this week he had 5 drops and adding to his number 10 overall player.
Yeah, I think he had at least 2 drops.
Yeah. It's like him and Deontay Johnson just have like they need to stop eating popcorn on the sidelines or something. Their Butterfingers are killing them. But
anyway. All right, enough of that.
Let's go to positive news, hopefully.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do is, it's waiver wire week, and I know that we've kind of tailed off with the amount of episodes we've been doing a week. We've basically gone down to 1 a week, and part of that's because of the schedule. We're getting into the holidays this time of the year. It's hard for me to be able to with my family and our schedule, especially with me getting ready to go down to. I'm going out of town for Christmas, so I'm going to be. Well, that's if California doesn't shut down and not allow anyone from out of state in the state.
They're not letting play football there right now, so.
Yeah, this is just. I'm not even
49ers.
Not even going to go there. I'm not even going to go. We're going to start talking politics, and that'll get me in trouble. But just this time of year, just it's tough for us. So we're probably at this point. This is also kind of a notice for you, CJ. We're probably just. Probably waiver wire week is probably the only, or probably waiver wire is probably the only time we're actually going to be able to get in an episode. So we'll cover what we can in that episode, but. Other than that, it's going to be maybe little snippets here and there in our social media stuff and then on the website. So another reason why it's going to be a little bit harder to get content out is I am completely revamping the website. And it takes a long time to do that when you have a staff and developers that do that. It's just me. So I'm basically revamping the entire website. And even CJ, you were making some comments on it already. So
yeah, I was checking out today. Like I was looking for prepping for the show tonight, and I know it's just like a little bit more visually pleasing to see everything. It looks a little bit cleaner, and like that was something really nice to go over. Like especially, I was looking at our rankings page to see how we did on the week, kind of like get an idea to talk about tonight. See what you thought last week and what you think now, and it just looks nicer, and it's really appreciate that from a consumer standpoint and from someone that uses the site for posting his rankings and articles and things like that. So yeah, it looks really good. Keep up the good work, man.
Thank you. All right, well, with that, why don't we go ahead and hop into today's headlines.
Today's headlines.
All right, and where we are going to start this off is Philadelphia. Eagles head coach Doug Peterson is not ready to announce a starter for next week's game. He says, quote, "You've got to let me get through this game. There's a lot of things I'm going to consider and evaluate before anything is decided." I think it's kind of already decided. They may be going with the young guy this next week.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Usually, anytime it's a conversation like this, where the coach comes out and says we don't know who it's gonna be,
that you kind of know. Guy. Yeah.
Like I don't know how you go back to Wentz after that statement. I mean, you could have, if he was just like, Wentz is still our guy, then you can like, okay, cool, we know. But if you're like up in the air with someone you paid that much money to, I think they want to see what they have in Hurts and maybe consider finding a trade partner for Wentz in the offseason.
Yeah, it could be interesting to see who. I mean, It'd be interesting to see what teams would actually be willing to trade for Wentz.
I think he'd have a better market than we think, which depends on what the quarterback landscape is around that time
Yeah.
for a lot of things. Because it could be like Indianapolis is a team, depending on what happens with Rivers.
Yeah, because Rivers is on a 1-year contract.
Yeah, I think the Saints are a dark horse if Breeze decides to retire.
That would be interesting.
Because it frees up a lot of the cap space too. Because Breeze takes a lot of the cap space.
Yep.
Well, but that just depends on so many other variables. But that could be something to be looking at in the offseason. Those are like the main two I could think of off the top of my head. Like in the back of my mind, like Pittsburgh, but they are still locked in everything. They can't take on that contract. They already can't take on many things. So it's like very few teams can actually do that contract. They're probably have to eat some money, the Eagles are, if they decide to go that route.
Most likely. I mean, you being a Saints fan,
Yeah.
I don't know how much you hear. I mean, is Jameis just not the guy for them? Is that?
From what I see, I think for some reason they have a love affair with Taysom Hill. And I think he's a great football player. He is an excellent
He's a football player. He's not a quarterback.
He is not a quarterback, but I think they want to see what they have in him. Jameis has a lot of off the field antics he likes to do, and I'm sure it came up at certain times. I've heard different little things about like meetings and things like that, which is a really easy way to get yourself benched, is how you act and react, which has been Jameis's problem since college. Because I'm originally from Florida. I actually had friends that went to college with him, and even in college, he had issues.
Yeah, what was it? It was crab legs. It was, let's see, what else?
That's like the known ones. I've heard
the
so many
known
other
one?
stories. That could be a whole other podcast of the Jameis Winston stories I've heard of people who went to college with them.
Yeah.
But I would love to see what they do with Jameis. I would love to see him get a couple, but they're winning, so they're not gonna do that. And the one time we did saw him, he got benched. So I don't think he's gonna be the guy. That's why I think it could be like a dark horse move for Wentz in the offseason, depending on what Breeze does.
Alrighty, moving on. According to Pete Carroll, Chris Carson is not 100%. You
Don't say.
You could see that in the game. Otherwise, they would have been able to run the ball a lot better against the Giants.
I think this is a terrifying thing for what he's saying, is he's usually the most optimistic coach. So like anytime he says anything negative, I take it extra serious.
Yep.
So I'd be a little worried about my Carson shares, but like you can't do anything when he's on the field because then they eat off each other too much.
Yeah. Yep. Panthers wide receiver DJ Moore is among the players being added to the COVID-19 reserve list. Go for Curtis Samuel.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a plus there.
No, Curtis Samuel was also on the list.
Oh, did Curtis Samuel get added to? Sorry, yeah. I missed who all was on that list.
I was actually just getting the whole list up so we had this one. It was 8 players total put on the list. DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, the main 2. So this is a Robbie Anderson kind of thing. Derek Brown, a lot of them defensive players. Shaq Thompson, Greg Little, Michael Pilardi, Ishmael Hayden. Guys that are maybe IDP players now, but things aren't necessarily anything for fantasy.
Yeah.
But DJ Moore and the Curtis Samuel are the 2 main for the offensive side of the ball.
Well, and then you've got Christian McCaffrey. While he didn't exactly answer if he'd play this week, it pretty much sounds like it. He says it feels great. I feel really great. Just hope that these next 4 games go well. Said there's no chance he'd consider sitting the last 4 games. So. For my team that has Christian McCaffrey that's already well out of the playoffs, it's nice to hear that he's going to be back.
I'm excited. My league of record has CMC just waiting in the wing. And I have we're first week bye, so I get to dodge the whole like, what's the workload game?
Yep.
And just let hope. But I think it's a huge endorsement for CMC. I think he's going to be he's going to play when he plays. You play Christian McCaffrey. There's no question. He's dropping 25 plus points when he's on the field. This is about when I expected him to come back with this injury.
Yeah.
Because they had the bye week here.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not surprised it went through the bye. I don't think it was because it was that bad. I think it was precautionary more than anything else to get him through the bye. So I would just fire him up with like no qualms.
Yep. Giants coach Joe Judge said the team will give quarterback Daniel Jones every opportunity to play this coming week. It sounds like there's optimism that he'll be able to do it. So very interesting with Daniel Jones. Who are the Giants actually playing this next week? I don't actually have that in front of me.
I'll get it real fast. Cool. Giants, they will be playing down here.
Arizona.
Yep. They're playing at home in Arizona there. I mean, I still wouldn't play Daniel Jones in general.
Nope.
Just because of his like already bad issues, and he take away his mobility, he's basically a non-start in general. I think that whole offense is pretty much a non-start.
Yeah.
Besides Wayne Gallman, who's getting the workload there, but apparently he gets vultured by Alfred Morris because it's 2020 and that's what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, 2 touchdowns from Alfred Morris.
Two.
And they were Alfred Morris's first touchdown since, what was it, December of 2018. 2 years.
But Wayne Gallman's been a solid RB2.
He has been, yeah.
He's going to be someone you can kind of like rely on for your fantasy playoffs, especially if you had someone picked up off the wire. And Arizona is not a great matchup normally but like I think just volume alone, he's a solid player, especially if people lost Antonio Gibson this week.
Yeah.
Hopefully you had something on your bench, which we've been talking about, like stocking up your bench with these backup players that could potentially come in. So
John Gruden not confident that Josh Jacobs will return for week 14. Not a whole lot there in the backup to work with. I mean,
yeah, Devontae Booker was terrible this past week. I was really low on him. A lot of people were really high on him because of workload, and I just did not think he was going to have a game, and he didn't. So that's kind of my victory lap.
Well, yeah. And we talked about this before the show. I mean, the Jets in general are giving up 5 points under projection.
Yep.
On average over the last 5 weeks or so. So.
Yeah, it's mostly like, don't think it's because the Jets are a good run defense. They're just that bad of a pass defense.
Yeah.
That teams aren't getting to the red zone. They're just scoring touchdowns.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what I saw. The stat, if you have anybody that's playing against the Jets who plays at the Seahawks, again, we're talking about a Chris Carson thing. You might want to consider sitting any of the Seahawks players. The Jets have not allowed a running back to have over 100 yards from scrimmage since week 6, and that was Myles Gaskin.
Yep.
And so it's something to consider there.
So next week should be a big bounce back game for Russell Wilson, for DK Metcalf, and for Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, that's going to be, as long as DK can hold on to the ball, money.
Well, okay. Well, here's this though. The Jets announced that they fired Greg Williams, who's the interim defensive coach. Do they, whoever their interim defensive coach, do they step up for him this week and have a decent game?
No.
Okay, I just figured I would throw that in there anyways.
There's not much analysis to do that. Like they're the 32nd best team in defense.
Yeah, something like that.
Which means they are the worst team on defense.
They finally passed up the Seahawks.
Yeah. So yeah, fire up all your pass catchers. This might be a David Moore game.
Yeah. I think what was it, a couple weeks ago? I think I was the only one that had him above wide receiver 35, and I had him at like 25 or something like that, and he ends up, wide receiver like 17.
Yeah, I think that was a week we texted each other saying David Moore.
David Moore, there it is. All right. It looks like two things. Sean Payton says that Breeze has no return time frame, so they're sticking with the Taysom Hill project.
I mean, I don't think it's their choice to do that. This is kind of like what I talked about when the injury first happened. I think he's done for the fantasy season. Like, there's been optimism about it, but like the typical time for a punctured lung would send him all the way through week 16 for a normal amount of injury recovery time.
Yep.
For a normal person that's not getting tackled.
Yep.
So.
Well, and again, it goes is this Breeze's last season now?
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens. That's all I can say about this one. Like I've got no insider news, no anything I've heard. I don't think he even knows yet, but he hasn't. I think we're gonna see what happens when he gets back on the field, and that'll decide a lot of what happens.
Yeah.
For the end of it, this is the end of his career. He's got one more year, because he's under contract next year, but a retirement can stop that.
Yeah. And last but not least, Dirk Cutter says that Todd Gurley is dealing with a knee injury. When is he not dealing with a knee injury? I mean, the guy's had arthritis in his knees forever.
This is a significant one because it showed why his workload was so much lower. They're only using him on third down and goal line. That's literally what they've come out and basically said, the coaching staff. That's what his role is until the knee kind of heals up a little bit. So pretty much that means that no one's usable in that backfield for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to see Brian Hill get – I mean, I'm a big fan of Brian Hill. I would love to see him get on a team that actually had a decent offensive line to block for him.
The problem with the running back position in general is there's too much talent, not enough jobs.
Yeah.
So
which for the longest time was not the case. It was just for the longest time it was just there aren't any good running backs. There isn't.
Yeah. And now we've gotten such a change of spectrum. The running backs don't matter. You're getting guys that just like getting workload.
Yeah.
But I think it's the ebbs and flows of how football is. So.
Yeah. All right. So we are going to hop into our waiver wire section, but before we do that, I got to bring up Dr. Squatch Soap again. They're kind of our main affiliate partner through this season. It's been great to partner with them, guys. You need to check out Dr. Squatch. Go to their website, drsquatch.com. You can check out all the different things they've got. They've got anything from soap to shampoo and conditioner, natural. They've just came out with a deodorant line. All their stuff is all natural, cold processed, no parabens, no chemicals. The soap that you normally use in the shower is scientifically classified as liquid detergent. This stuff isn't. This is real soap made the old-fashioned way. Make sure to check them out. Go to drsquatch.com. Figure out what you want. You can even actually build your own bundle. Go to I believe it's drsquatch.com/pages/BYOB. Like bring your own beer, build your own bundle. And you can pick and choose how much stuff you want. The more you choose, the more you pick, the bigger discount you get. Once you've gotten, the big bundle that you want, once you hit the cart and checkout, you can actually put in our coupon code SKS20 and get an extra 20% off. You put in enough stuff. I've actually seen a few people's carts coming through there that basically got 50% off on their entire order because of using building their own bundle, getting so much off that way, and then adding the extra 20% at the end. So again, drsquatch.com. Check out all their bundles. Build your own if you can. And then again, use the coupon code SKS20 to get an extra 20% off of any order of $20 or more. All right, let's hop into some waiver wire madness.
Waiver Wire Madness.
All right, with the waiver wire, again, the way that we do this is we use the list from fantasypros.com that they compile for us, since they are our main outlet that we use for our rankings and such to post to the website. What they do is they compile a list of what they consider the best options, owned, rostered, however you want to do it, rostered in 50% or less of leagues across both ESPN and Yahoo, the two biggest platforms. Starting with the quarterbacks, there's no one we want to tell you to pick up. The list is horrible. Teddy Bridgewater against Denver, Baker Mayfield against Baltimore, Tua against Kansas City, Trubisky against Houston, Dalton against Cincinnati. Hey, there we go. Dalton against Cincinnati. The revenge game.
Revenge game over revenge. I didn't think about that narrative. Yeah.
Sam Darnold against an improving Seattle defense, and Jalen Hurts against New Orleans. I mean, there's nothing I want anywhere in there.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that you really should be aiming for on this one. The only way I think you should be hitting for a quarterback at this point is if you're the Carson Wentz owner and you're like, well, I got to change it up because, one, they're facing New Orleans, it's a great defense, and two, we don't know who's starting. Tua is the one I would grab, personally. facing off against Kansas City. Should be more of a shootout. He's going to need to throw the ball. Kansas City is defense will get some picks, but I think they're going to need to get points and it'll be garbage time. And that's about all I'm aiming for if I had to pick up from this list.
Yeah, I'm checking. I'm just doing a real quick check for
like Bridgewater wouldn't be a terrible grab, but he's missing 2 of his 3 main receivers.
Yes.
There. And maybe CMC can make up the difference, but that's like a lot of maybes there. And
I mean, I went to the Yahoo list and just to see what they've got. Phillip Rivers against Las Vegas is 40% rostered. I mean, I still don't like that one either.
I mean, I like it better than a lot of things, but like, I still think I would lean more going towards Tua for the upside.
Yeah, I think Tua would be the most likely.
Yeah.
What about Alex Smith against San Francisco's defense? They've proven that they can't really do a whole lot.
Alex Smith is actually one of my favorite like superflex QB2s that's been like cheap a lot of the time for superflex formats. I think Alex Smith can definitely be someone you can pick up and start. He's not going to be a boom though.
No.
So he's like a matchup dependent kind of pickup. So he's going to, even like good games, he's only about 18 to 20 points.
Yeah, well, again, he is what he's always been his entire career for the most part, except for the 1 year with Kansas City. He's been a solid, streamable option. You could always just about always count on Alex Smith to throw for 200 to 250 yards, a touchdown, and run for 35.
Yeah.
And if he throws for an extra touchdown or manages to throw for 300 yards, it's a bonus. I mean, he was the ultimate streamable quarterback when you needed someone off the waiver wire.
Yeah, the downside is the quarterback position has evolved so much that like the 18 points you normally would get is like a middle of the pack week a lot of the time. So I would, if you're going for Alex Smith, no, there's not really a huge ceiling for it, but if you look at your matchup and you're like, I just need a floor. Like I am solid at all these positions. My opponent's like kind of sketchy, and like I just need someone to be a floor. I think he's a great floor or a great QB, a perfect QB2 for Superflex.
Yeah. Well, again, looking at San Francisco just over the last few weeks, they give up to quarterbacks 4.2 points over projection, and the tight ends do better as well. So who knows?
It's going to be more than that too with how Josh Allen played. Tonight. So I think San Francisco definitely a defense you can target for quarterbacks. I'm just not sure Alex Smith is a quarterback that takes advantage of that enough to play him over someone's upside if you need that big play, that big quarterback. But he's definitely like that safe 18 points. 17 points.
And it also depends on how deep your league is as well.
Yeah, no, 100%.
So,
yeah,
But if you got to go to Alex Smith, it's a deep league and you're in trouble.
Yeah, it's Alex Smith or Tua are like the only two I would like look at if I needed that, either super flex or a deep quarterback start.
Yep. All right, so moving on to the running backs.
No.
Yuck. Basically, yuck again. Adrian Peterson against Green Bay. That's the best. I mean, we still don't know about DeAndre Swift. Adrian Peterson himself last week was saying he has not been the same since he got that concussion. He's just not himself since he had that concussion.
Yeah, and concussions vary from player to player too. Like no concussion is exactly the same. So when we hear about concussions, very broad scheme. Like we saw one knockout Gurley for those games are going with David Johnson. David Johnson
went on the IR and missed 3 weeks.
Yeah, I was thinking with that one. But yeah, knocked out David Johnson 3. So every concussion is completely different. And the thing about Adrian Peterson, I keep not wanting him to do good because my rankings always have him so low, and he keeps proving me wrong. He just gets 1 yard touchdowns all the time.
He got 2 of them this last week.
He had 2 of them the week before.
Yeah.
It's all he does is get 1 yard touchdown. So apparently, again, they just get tackled in the one all the time. But again, he's a volume play. If Swift is gone, Swift is definitely the better play. Green Bay is definitely a defense to target in terms of usually running backs. So it's definitely someone to consider depending on the news that comes out the rest of the week.
Yeah, he finished as running back 5 this last week in standard.
Exactly, like touchdowns, man. And I was just like, oh, he's not even a great play, even if Swift doesn't play. and then he just gets
He's
two.
been a top 10 running back the last 2 weeks in half-point PPR.
That's what I'm saying. He's got 4 touchdowns the past few weeks. Like, it's ridiculous.
Oh, man.
And they've all been like, they've literally been LeGarrette Blount touchdowns though too.
Yeah.
There's not been like, oh, a big run. It's
No.
just like, well, we're on the one, punch it in, bud.
There you go. Take it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, Adrian Peterson's the only one on this list that has any. I mean, could you make? I mean, with how bad the Seattle defense got gashed in the run game this last week, which up until 2 weeks ago was not an issue. The run defense had been great, and it was the pass defense where they were giving everything up. Now it's almost like the last 3 weeks have been a complete flip-flop where they've really settled down in the pass defense, and it's the run defense that's struggled. I mean, I can't even say it with a straight face. Never mind.
I was like, I'm just gonna disagree if you say he's an option. I'm just like, the deepest of leagues you have to start Ty Johnson, who we're talking about, I assume.
Yeah, I mean he's the closest thing to it. I'm like I said, I'm again going to Yahoo to see who's available in that area.
They're gonna fall so far behind so fast, in my opinion, that they have to abandon the run.
Or at least they better. How's that?
Yeah. Yeah. Personally, AP is the only one I would consider if Swift is out. So keep an eye on the news on that. I assume he's gonna be back this week because they put him on IR for the concussion. But
yeah,
again, those vary day to day, week to week, with concussions. Like brain injuries are like no joke, so something to monitor.
Yeah. I'm again just trying to go through the list. Yeah, no one. All right, moving on. Running backs are done. Wide receivers. All right.
Talk about things.
Who? Huh?
Now we can talk about things.
Yeah, a couple. Like Cordarrelle Patterson running the ball against Houston.
Oh my God.
All right, let's
Wide receiver.
All right. Who's some of your favorite pickups this week at the wide receiver position?
It goes back to that. I've been like targeting these Jets receivers as like this like wide receiver 3 you can plug in and play because they fall so far behind that just keep throwing it. And Perriman and Mims are my top 2. Like pick your poison on that one. I think Mims is a better player. Perriman is the deeper targets, whatever you need. Those are pretty much my top 2 pickups. Kind of a pick your poison on that one.
Yeah. Just kind of looking at some of the other matchups. A lot of the other matchups don't really look. I mean,
there's not that many good matchups with these waiver wire receivers this week. So that's the hard part of all this. Is a lot of times we will target a matchup to like, oh, this guy's a good matchup. You can grab him and plug him in.
Yeah,
not much on here.
I mean, depending on how desperate you are and how deep your league is, I could see a Tim Patrick as like kind of 3rd or 4th on the wide receiver list.
Yeah.
Waiver wires, just because he had a little bit of a bounce back week this last week. It helped that Drew Lock is somewhat healthy.
Tim Patrick's just solid, man. Like, he's just like a good wide receiver. His route tree's kind of limited, but that catch he had in the end zone, and he's gotten better over and over. So I wonder what's gonna happen with him next year. Honestly, he's a restricted free agent. He might be versus KJ Hamler for that wide receiver 3 role, but yeah, I think he's solid. He's kind of like the Alex Smith you're looking for, like a lot. Unless he catches those touchdowns like this past week, he's just gonna be safe points.
Yep.
So,
all right, and that's pretty much it for wide receivers too.
I might want to backtrack a little bit. Something I want to bring up about running backs is check your waiver wire for J.D. McKissick. He might have been dropped over the past few weeks. He's over the 50%, but that's why we didn't talk about him a minute ago.
I dropped him in 2 leagues.
I just dropped him. Yeah, this past week. Gibson's been getting the work. I literally just dropped him this week.
Yep. Yeah, so I dropped him in 2 leagues this week, trying to get some extra help in other places, and about that.
That just kind of popped in my head when thinking of pass catchers, because he's not a running back to me.
No.
Getting 10 receptions, but he's a running back position.
Yep.
But that's someone to because I didn't mean to take that away, but I wanted to bring that up while it was in my head.
No, absolutely. Thank you for bringing it up. All right, so tight end Logan Thomas.
Yes, my boy. We can't go a week without talking about him. We literally can't. Because he's always on this list, and he's always the number 1, number 2 pickup, and getting 9 targets today. Dropping 30 plus fantasy points, or like 20 something fantasy points.
Yeah, a couple years ago there was a guy that we used to bring up all the time like this as well, from Houston. I don't know if you remember CJ Fedorowicz.
Yeah, Fedora.
He was basically it was the same type of thing. It's just he was always available, and for some reason Watson liked throwing to him, and he would finish, he would finish, top 10 tight end every 2 out of 3 weeks, and no one would pick him up, and then he started dealing with the concussions and missing time. But yeah, he's another one of those guys that I remember that was just kind of that same sort of thing where always seemed to be available in leagues, and for the most part did pretty solid. So
yeah, I think the matchup's also really good this week. He's one of those guys that you can grab and play definitely this week with confidence. Especially after a big week. So you might be fighting a little bit on that one, but that's definitely someone I'd be aiming for. San Francisco just let up a touchdown on Dawson Knox tonight. And they've been really bad versus tight ends. So, and especially getting all those targets, he's definitely my main tight end pickup.
Yeah, I'm looking at one thing here. There was another player that I'm looking at. Did I take? Oh, there.
I know who my number 2 is. If you want me to talk about it.
Okay, who's your number 2?
If you're desperate, I'd say Cole Kmet.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be one there too.
He's overtaking the role from what we were saying about Jimmy Graham all season.
Yep,
he's getting the targets. He has the Houston as a matchup. So again, if Logan Thomas gets picked up, he's someone you can grab and stream, because like tight ends are just a matchup based game. Unless you literally have Kelsey, I think it's a matchup based game. Like Waller's like that kind of almost exception, but besides Kelsey, like anybody can dud you. So you're aiming for matchups. Yeah,
I think the only other one that I would possibly throw out there who managed to score a decent amount of points for me this last week, he just couldn't get into the end zone. Again, it all depends on who's injured in front. If Jonnu Smith misses again, Tannehill likes throwing to Ferkser. I mean,
he didn't for like the first 3 quarters.
Yeah, it was all in garbage time. Basically, It was all in garbage time, and almost got him into the end zone. But still, I mean, again, he's a guy that, if Jonnu Smith misses, he is the likely guy to pick up some of that passing game. And again, they're going against a Jacksonville defense that has not been very good this season. Now lately they're right about within the standard deviation in terms of against tight ends, and just teams that give up that score a lot of points are still just scoring a lot of points against Jacksonville. So
yeah, no, it's definitely something. He got 7 targets this past week, which is a very good target share. But that team does fluctuate their targets around.
It does.
But if you go through his past few weeks, even with Jonnu on the field, he had 5. Last week he had 1. The week before that he had 5 and 3 and 6. So there's definitely like a possibility of upside there, even if Jonnu's on the field. But I definitely that's the deepest of leagues.
Yeah. And again,
if Jonnu's playing.
And again, that's why. Yeah. That's why I have him behind Logan Thomas, Cole Kmet, and even Tyler Higbee. Yeah. So, but it's one of those deeper ones. If you're desperate and Jonnu Smith is, again, it also is dependent on Jonnu Smith missing. That's that could be another route for you to go. So
you can also watch the practice reports too. Even if he doesn't miss, if he's sounds like he's gonna be too banged up to be like a high snap share.
Yep,
that could be a definitely deeper play. There's not much else out there.
No,
like looking at our list, that's more like Kyle Rudolph, Dalton Schultz, Jordan Reed caught a touchdown tonight in garbage time. That's a thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
nothing's really exciting out
could
there.
Dalton Schultz be part of that that narrative of the game for Andy Dalton against Cincinnati?
He does like passing to him every now and then. He's that Dalton connection that they have going on.
All right. Anything else you got for this week?
No, but playoffs are beginning. This is the make or break kind of stuff. This is the kind of time where you think week to week, not like whole season long. So Sometimes you got to make some calls that will be kind of weird to see on paper. But if all the numbers are going that way and you really feel confident on it, just go for it. and as long as you can live with the consequences.
Yeah, this is one of those weeks where, a lot of the times, I think for rankings and stuff, especially because we get graded on our rankings. Like, we're actually told, we actually find out how good or bad our rankings are compared to everyone else in the industry. And mine have not been great lately. But I think part of that is because I've taken some chances with some players, looking at matchups and everything, that when you get to this point in the playoffs, you don't have much of a choice. I mean, you have to make those kind of calls, and you have to live with them. I was playing a lot safer, I think, in the first half of the season with my rankings, and it seemed to work out pretty well. And then it didn't, and then so I started taking some risk, and then it got worse. But yeah, this is the time of the year where in fantasy you're going to have to make some tough calls. And again, you're going to have to live with the consequences of it. So
so one thing I want to bring up.
Go ahead.
If you're between a call and everything's pointing in that direction and you feel like that's the way to go, ask yourself, would I rather win with this person? Would I rather lose with the person on my bench, or would I rather lose with them in my lineup, kind of thing? What can you live with on that one? And one thing I bring up is last year in the finals, I played Andy Dalton over Deshaun Watson in multiple leagues. And that was a week Watson got 8 points and Dalton scored 40. So if the numbers are there and you can be confident in it, I say go for it. But I'm also very risky. But it also helped me out a lot in my rankings in a lot of my leagues.
In some of my leagues, I have been made fun of for some of the calls that I've made.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've had people like, why in the world would you even think that? And look at the numbers, look at the matchup, look at all these things. And if it had worked, you guys would have all called me genius, and it didn't. So I made a risk. I'm willing to live with it. I'm willing to, live with the fact that I don't always start my studs. So I
believe you have a strong process. You're going to hit a lot more than you miss.
Correct.
And that's how you win.
Yep. I think I tend to think of myself in terms of how I play fantasy football and set up my rosters, kind of like a Phil Mickelson. I take a lot of risks. A lot of them pay off, but when they don't, they really don't. It's really bad. So, all right. So that's all we got for you guys tonight, and basically probably for this week. We will try to get. I will get our start and sit thread going on the Facebook page this week. I'll probably get it going Saturday so we can start answering those questions ahead of time. Hope you guys all have a great week. Good luck in the playoffs this week, you guys. Hope that you guys all make the right calls, advance farther. For those of you who don't have the playoffs yet, I've got 3 leagues that I have a 2-week playoff, week 15 and 16. For those of you, I hope you guys get the wins you need to make it into the playoffs. So for CJ, my name is Ryan Skullrood. Again, this has been the SkullKing Sports Fantasy Football Podcast. We'll talk to you guys later. Hey, SkullKing Nation. Thank you for listening to the SkullKing Football Podcast. Did you like this episode? If so, be sure to go to iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and YouTube to subscribe. Also, please leave us a rating and reviews to let us know how we can better help you rule your leagues.